Think about the last time something you cared about completely fell apart. Maybe it was a project at work, a business idea that never took off, or a personal goal that seemed to drift further away with every attempt. Failure has a distinct sting. It is a universal feeling, a cold reminder of our limits. It can make you want to quit, to retreat, to choose a safer path. We have all felt it. It is this very feeling that makes the story of Elon Musk so compelling. Today his name is linked with futuristic cars and rockets that land themselves. He stands as a giant of modern industry, a man who seems to turn science fiction into reality. But his success was not a straight line. It was built on a mountain of failures. Musk is the face of Tesla, the company that made electric cars cool and desirable. He is the mind behind SpaceX, the private venture that broke the monopoly of nations on space travel. He wants to build cities on Mars. He wants to connect our brains to computers. His ambitions are not just big, they are civilization-altering. When we see a Falcon 9 rocket ascend into the sky or a sleek Tesla Model S glide silently down the street, we see victory. We see the polished end product of a brilliant vision. This image of effortless success is a powerful illusion. It hides the difficult truth. It masks the years of struggle, the moments of despair, and the constant threat of total collapse. The journey to this point was anything but easy. It was a path filled with moments that would have broken most people. Imagine pouring your entire fortune into two companies, only to watch them both teeter on the edge of bankruptcy at the same time. Picture being kicked out of a company you helped create, removed by your own team while you were on vacation. Think of rockets exploding one after another, burning millions of dollars with each fiery blast. These are not small setbacks. These are catastrophic failures. Yet, for Musk, they were not endings. They were lessons. They were painful, expensive, and public lessons that ultimately shaped his approach and fueled his resolve to keep pushing forward against all odds. To truly understand how Musk achieved what so many thought was impossible, we must look past the headlines of today. We must go back in time. We need to explore the roots of his incredible resilience. His story is not just about building successful companies. It is a story about building a mindset that can withstand incredible pressure. It is about a man who learned to treat failure not as a stop sign, but as a guidepost. A man who learned to listen to his own vision when the world was shouting that he was wrong. It is a journey that began not in a high-tech lab, but in a difficult childhood far away, in a country on the other side of the world. Elon Musk's story begins in Pretoria, South Africa, during a time of social and political turmoil. His childhood was not a happy one. He was a small, quiet, and bookish boy. He spent more time lost in the worlds of science fiction and fantasy than he did with other kids. This made him an easy target. He was relentlessly bullied at school. The physical and emotional abuse was severe, leading to injuries that required medical attention. These experiences were deeply painful. They left him feeling isolated and alone. Instead of breaking him, however, this isolation pushed him further into his own mind. It was in this internal world that he began to build the foundations of his future. He read encyclopedias for fun, absorbing information like a sponge. His escape was through books and, soon enough, computers. At the age of 10, he got his first computer, a Commodore VIC-20. It came with a programming manual. Most kids would have played the games that came with it. Musk decided to learn how to make his own. He taught himself to code. Within a couple of years, at the age of 12, he had developed his first commercial software. It was a video game called Blaster. He sold the code to a computer magazine for about $500. This was more than just a small bit of pocket money. It was his first taste of turning an idea into a real product. It was a sign that his internal world of logic and creation could have an impact on the real world. Musk's home life was also complicated. After his parents divorced, he chose to live with his father, a decision he would later regret. He has described his father as a difficult person to be around. This challenging family dynamic meant he had to learn to be independent from a very young age. There was no safety net to catch him. He had to rely on himself, on his own intellect and his own will to move forward. This self-reliance became a core part of his character. He knew that if he wanted to change his circumstances, he would have to do it himself. He began to dream of a place where innovation was celebrated, America. His early interests were not just in computers. The books he read were filled with grand adventures in space and tales of heroes saving humanity. These stories captured his imagination. He did not just see them as entertainment. He saw them as a blueprint for what a person could aspire to do. He started thinking about big problems. He worried about the future of the human race. He identified critical areas like sustainable energy, the internet, and space exploration as being essential for humanity's long-term survival. These were not the typical concerns of a teenager, but for Musk, they were the seeds of a mission that would define his entire life and drive him to pursue the impossible. At 17, Musk made his move. He knew that to pursue his grand ambitions, he needed to be in North America. Using his mother's Canadian citizenship, he left South Africa behind and landed in Canada with little money and few connections. He enrolled at Queen's University in Ontario. He eventually transferred to the University of Pennsylvania in the United States. There, he earned degrees in both physics and economics. This combination of subjects was telling. He was fascinated by the fundamental laws of the universe, but also by the practical systems that make the world work. He was accepted into a PhD program in applied physics at Stanford University, the heart of Silicon Valley. But the timing was everything. The year was 1995, the internet was exploding. It was a digital gold rush, a new frontier where fortunes were being made and industries were being reinvented overnight. Musk saw this. He felt the pull of this revolution. After just 2 days at Stanford, he made a bold decision. He dropped out. He decided he could not just stand by and watch the internet change the world from a classroom. He wanted to be a part of it. He wanted to build something. So, with his brother, Kimball Musk, he decided to start a company. They had almost no money. They rented a small office, slept on the floor, and showered at a local YMCA. They were all in. Their first venture was called Zip2. The idea was simple but powerful for its time. They wanted to create an online city guide for newspapers. It would provide maps, directions, and business listings. Today, we take services like Google Maps for granted. But back then, this was a novel concept. Getting the business off the ground was a brutal struggle. They faced constant rejection. Potential investors did not understand the vision. Newspapers were slow to embrace the internet. For a while, it seemed like the company was going nowhere. Musk coded relentlessly, often working all day and all night to build the platform. He was driven by the belief that he was right, even when almost everyone else told him he was wrong. Slowly, things started to turn around. They secured funding. They signed contracts with major newspapers like the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune. The company grew, but with growth came new challenges. The investors who had put money into Zip2 brought in more experienced management. Musk was no longer in complete control of his own creation. He clashed with the new CEO over the direction of the company. In 1999, the computer manufacturer Compaq acquired Zip2 for over $300 million. Musk's share was $22 million. He was only 28 years old, and he was already a multimillionaire. For most, this would have been the ultimate success. For Musk, it was just the beginning, and it taught him a valuable lesson about control. With the money from the Zip2 sale, Musk did not rest. He did not buy a private island or retire. Instead, he immediately rolled almost all of his winnings into his next big idea. He wanted to revolutionize the banking industry. He co-founded a company called X.com in 1999. His vision was to create a full-service online financial institution, a one-stop shop for all banking needs. This was an incredibly ambitious goal. The banking industry was old, powerful, and resistant to change. Musk was trying to disrupt one of the most established systems in the world. He poured $12 million of his own money into the venture, a huge bet on his own vision. X.com was not alone. Its biggest competitor was a company called Confinity, which had a popular money transfer service called PayPal. The two companies were locked in a fierce battle for market share. They were spending huge sums of money to attract new customers. It soon became clear that this war was unsustainable. In 2000, the two rivals made a strategic decision to merge. The combined company would be known as X.com, but the PayPal service was its most popular product. Musk became the CEO of the new entity. However, there were deep divisions within the company. A major source of conflict was technical. Musk wanted to rebuild the entire platform on Microsoft's software stack, while other key engineers, including co-founder Peter Thiel, strongly preferred the existing Linux-based system. This internal disagreement grew into a full-blown power struggle. The board and other key executives became increasingly uncomfortable with Musk's leadership and his push for a risky technical migration. The conflict came to a head in late 2000. While Musk was on a long overdue vacation, a trip that was also his honeymoon, The board staged a coup. They held an emergency meeting and voted to oust him as CEO. He was replaced by Peter Thiel. Musk found out about it when he landed. It was a brutal betrayal. He had co-founded the company, poured his heart and fortune into it, only to be kicked out by his own team. It was a painful public failure. Despite being removed from the leadership role, Musk remained the largest shareholder in the company, which was soon renamed PayPal. He could have been bitter. He could have fought back. Instead, he continued to serve as an advisor, recognizing that the company's success was still in his best financial interest. His faith in the business model proved correct. In 2002, the online auction giant eBay acquired PayPal for a stunning $1.5 billion. As the largest shareholder, Musk's take was approximately $180 million after taxes. He was now wealthier than ever before. But more importantly, he had learned another hard lesson. He learned about corporate politics, the importance of a unified team, and the pain of losing control. He vowed that in his next ventures things would be different. With nearly $200 million in the bank, Elon Musk could have done anything. He had the freedom to live a life of leisure, but honestly, his mind was already on the next, much bigger challenge. He was thinking about those science fiction books from his childhood, and he was thinking about the future of humanity. He became convinced that for the human species to survive in the long term, we needed to become a multi-planetary species. We needed a backup plan. We needed to go to Mars. At first, his idea was not to build rockets himself. His plan was to buy refurbished Russian intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs, and use them to send a small greenhouse to Mars. He called it the Mars Oasis Project. So he traveled to Russia several times to negotiate a deal. The Russians, though, did not take this young internet millionaire seriously. They saw him as a novice with crazy ideas and a lot of money. They quoted him astronomical prices and honestly treated him with disrespect. During one frustrating flight back from Moscow, Musk had an epiphany. He was looking at spreadsheets, calculating the costs of rockets, and realized that the raw materials needed to build a rocket were actually only a small fraction of the final price. The real cost was in the complex, inefficient, and bureaucratic process of building them. He thought, we can do this ourselves, we can build our own rockets. And so in 2002, SpaceX was born. The goal of SpaceX was audacious: to dramatically reduce the cost of space travel by building reusable rockets. The entire aerospace industry thought he was insane. Experts who had spent their lives building rockets for NASA and major defense contractors said it was impossible. They laughed at him. But Musk was determined. He poured $100 million of his own money into SpaceX. He hired a small team of brilliant, passionate engineers. They worked out of a warehouse in El Segundo, California. They embraced a philosophy of rapid iteration, building, testing, failing, and learning faster than anyone thought possible. The early years were brutal. Their first rocket was the Falcon 1. The first launch in 2006 ended in a fiery explosion just seconds after liftoff. The second launch in 2007 reached space but failed to make it to orbit. The third launch in 2008 also ended in failure, destroying the rocket and its payload, which included NASA satellites. By this point, Musk was almost out of money. He had enough for one more attempt. Everything was on the line. He later said, "I was waking up and having to mentally prepare for the company to die." In September 2008, they launched the fourth Falcon 1. This time, it worked perfectly. It was the first privately funded liquid-fueled rocket to reach Earth orbit. A few months later, NASA awarded SpaceX a $1.6 billion contract to resupply the International Space Station, saving the company from certain death. While Musk was trying to get rockets off the ground, he was also involved in another seemingly impossible venture. In 2004, he discovered a small startup called Tesla Motors. The company was founded by engineers Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. They had a vision to build a high-performance electric sports car. Musk, with his long-standing interest in sustainable energy, was immediately captivated. He saw the potential to change the world's reliance on fossil fuels. He invested heavily in the company's first funding round, becoming its chairman. He was not just a passive investor, he was deeply involved in the design and engineering of their first car, the Roadster. The road for Tesla was just as rocky as the one for SpaceX. The automotive industry is incredibly difficult to break into. It requires immense capital, complex supply chains, and massive manufacturing expertise. For a century, no new American car company had succeeded. Tesla faced constant skepticism. The established auto giants dismissed them. Financial analysts predicted their quick demise. Developing the Roadster was far more expensive and complicated than anyone had anticipated. The company was burning through cash at an alarming rate. There were production delays, technical problems, and internal power struggles. Musk eventually had to take over as CEO to steer the company through the crisis. The year 2008 was the darkest period. It was the Great Recession, and financial markets were collapsing. It was nearly impossible to raise money. At the same time that SpaceX was on its last launch attempt, Tesla was also on the verge of bankruptcy. Musk faced a terrible choice. He had a little bit of money left. He could save one company, or he could split the money between them and risk losing both. He chose to risk everything. He put his last remaining personal funds into both SpaceX and Tesla. He was betting it all on his two impossible dreams. He described it as staring into the abyss. He was borrowing money from friends just to pay his living expenses. Against all odds, both bets paid off. Just after SpaceX won its life-saving NASA contract, Tesla managed to close a crucial funding round in the final hours of Christmas Eve, 2008. The company was saved. The Roadster went into production and proved that electric cars could be exciting and fast. But the real breakthrough came with the Model S, a sedan designed from the ground up to be the best car in the world. Not just the best electric car, it won numerous awards and transformed public perception of electric vehicles. Tesla had survived its near-death experience and was on its way to changing the automotive world forever. It was a triumph born from the ashes of near-certain failure. How does one person manage to lead two revolutionary companies through such intense periods of crisis? The answer lies in Elon Musk's unique mindset and his unbelievable work ethic. He is famous for working 80 to 100 hours a week, sometimes sleeping on the factory floor to solve production problems. This relentless drive is legendary. But it is not just about working hard. It is about working smart, guided by a specific mental framework. At the core of his problem-solving approach is a concept he calls thinking from first principles. This is a physics-based way of looking at the world. It means breaking down a problem into its most fundamental, undeniable truths, and reasoning up from there. For example, when everyone said batteries were too expensive to make electric cars affordable, he did not accept that as a fact. He asked, what are the fundamental materials in a battery? What is the market price of those materials? He found that the cost of the raw materials was a tiny fraction of the total price. The rest was due to inefficient manufacturing processes. By reasoning from first principles, he saw a path to drastically reduce the cost, something the rest of the industry had missed because they were only making small improvements on existing methods. He applied the same logic to rockets. He started from the basic physics of spaceflight, not from the way rockets had always been built. This mental model is paired with an unwavering long-term vision. Musk is not trying to make a quick profit or meet quarterly earnings expectations. He is playing a much longer game. His goals are measured in decades, not months. He wants to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. He wants to make humanity a multi-planetary species. These massive, long-term goals act as his North Star. They guide all of his decisions. When faced with a setback, he does not see it as a failure of the entire mission. He sees it as a problem to be solved on the path toward that larger goal. This perspective makes it easier to endure short-term pain and criticism. His daily habits reflect this intensity. He famously breaks his day into 5-minute slots to maximize his efficiency. He spends the vast majority of his time on engineering and design, the parts of the business he believes are most critical. He is known for his direct, sometimes blunt communication style. He pushes his teams incredibly hard because he believes in the importance of their mission. This combination of a powerful mental framework, a long-term vision, and an almost superhuman work ethic is the engine behind his success. It is what allowed him to take on entire industries, face down bankruptcy, and achieve what so many believe to be impossible. Elon Musk's incredible journey from a bullied boy in South Africa to the leader of world-changing companies offers powerful lessons for anyone, no matter their field or ambition. His story is not just about genius or luck. It is about a specific mindset that can be learned and applied. The first and perhaps most important lesson is to embrace failure as a learning opportunity. For Musk, failure is not the opposite of success. It is a necessary part of it. Each rocket that exploded was not just a loss. It was a data point. It provided invaluable information about what went wrong, which was then used to make the next rocket better. He has said, "Failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you are not innovating enough." The second key lesson is to believe in your own vision, especially when others do not. When Musk started SpaceX, the entire aerospace industry laughed at him. When he pushed Tesla to build the Model S, critics said the company would go bankrupt. He faced an overwhelming chorus of doubt and negativity. If he had listened to the experts, he would have quit before he even started. Instead, he trusted his own analysis. He trusted his first principles thinking. This does not mean being stubborn or ignoring all advice. It means doing your own homework, understanding the fundamentals of a problem, and then having the courage to follow your conclusions, even if they go against conventional wisdom. Betting on yourself is a prerequisite for achieving anything great. The third pillar of his mindset is to think long-term. In a world that is often obsessed with short-term gains and immediate gratification, Musk stands out for his focus on the distant future. His goals are not about the next quarter, they are about the next century. This long-term perspective provides incredible resilience. A bad week, a bad month, or even a bad year is just a small blip on a multi-decade timeline. This way of thinking helps to put problems into perspective. It allows you to weather storms that would sink those with a shorter-term outlook. Focusing on a big, meaningful long-term goal gives you a powerful reason to keep going when things get tough. These three principles, treating failure as learning, betting on your own vision, and maintaining a long-term focus, are not exclusive to building rocket companies or electric car empires. They are universal. They can be applied to starting a small business, learning a new skill, changing careers, or pursuing a personal passion. They form a powerful framework for navigating the challenges and uncertainties of any ambitious undertaking. They transform obstacles from roadblocks into stepping stones. Musk's story shows us that the size of your success is often determined by your ability to endure and learn from your failures. It is a testament to the power of a resilient mind. In the end, the story of Elon Musk is not just the story of one man. It is a powerful reminder of the human potential for resilience. It shows us that the path to extraordinary achievements is almost always paved with ordinary and sometimes spectacular failures. We live in a culture that often fears failure. We are taught to avoid it, to hide it, to be ashamed of it. Musk's journey challenges this idea head-on. It reframes failure not as a weakness but as a source of strength. It is the fuel for innovation. It is the price of admission for doing something new, for pushing the boundaries of what is possible. Without the exploded rockets, there would be no reusable rockets. Without the near bankruptcy of Tesla, there would be no electric car revolution. We may not all aspire to build cities on Mars, our goals may be closer to home, but the principles remain the same. Every one of us will face setbacks. We will encounter obstacles that seem insurmountable. We will hear voices of doubt both from others and from within our own minds. In these moments, we have a choice. We can see the failure as an endpoint, a sign that we should give up. Or we can see it as Musk does, as a lesson, a data point, a stepping stone. We can choose to let it defeat us, or we can choose to let it teach us. The path forward is rarely clear and never easy. The practical takeaways from his journey are simple yet profound. First, do not be afraid to fail, but when you do, fail intelligently. Analyze what went wrong. Extract the lesson. Adjust your approach and try again. Turn every setback into a part of your education. Second, have the courage to bet on yourself. Do the work, form your own conclusions, and trust your ability to figure things out. Do not let the chorus of doubters drown out your own carefully considered vision. Finally, lift your gaze to the horizon. Set goals that are meaningful and long-term. A powerful purpose will give you the strength to endure the inevitable short-term struggles. The fire of failure can either consume you, or it can forge you. Elon Musk's story is a testament to the power of being forged. It encourages us to look at our own challenges not as impossible walls but as mountains to be climbed. It gives us permission to be ambitious, to be daring, and to be resilient. So the next time you face a failure, big or small, remember the rockets that exploded and the companies that almost died. Remember that on the other side of that struggle, if you refuse to quit, lies the potential for your own greatest success. Use your failures as fuel, let them light your path forward,